Princess Vela stood at the tall window of her royal chamber and looked out at the endless purple sky of her homeworld. The twin suns were setting, painting everything in shades of gold and violet. It was beautiful. It was the same view she had seen for 200 years. She was tired of it. Behind her the door opened, and her personal servant entered with a bow. "Your Highness, your father requests your presence in the throne room. Another suitor has arrived." Vela did not turn around. "Which one is this?" "Prince Dorak of the Moran Federation, Your Highness. He brings gifts of rare crystals and promises of military alliance." "The 48th, Vela said quietly. She finally turned to face her servant. Her silver skin caught the fading sunlight, and her large dark eyes showed no excitement. "Tell my father I will be there shortly." The servant bowed again and left. Vela looked at herself in the mirror. She was considered the most beautiful princess in the known galaxy. Her silver hair flowed down her back like liquid metal. Her features were delicate and perfect, as all Solani features were. She was young by her people's standards, only 212 years old. She could live for another 1,000 years, maybe more. And yet she felt nothing. No joy, no hope, no desire. Just emptiness. The Solani were the oldest civilization in this part of the galaxy. They had built great cities when other species were still living in caves. They had mastered space travel when others were learning to make fire. They were elegant, intelligent, and powerful. They were also, Vela had realized long ago, completely and utterly boring. She walked slowly through the palace corridors. Servants bowed as she passed. Guards stood at attention. Everything was orderly and perfect and predictable. She had walked these same corridors thousands of times. She knew every stone, every painting, every shadow. The throne room was massive, with ceilings so high they disappeared into darkness. Her father, Emperor Kyle, sat on the crystal throne at the far end. He was old even by Solani standards, nearly 800 years old, and his silver skin had faded to a pale gray. But his eyes were still sharp, and his voice still commanded respect. Beside the throne stood the suitor. Prince Dorak was tall and thin, with the blue-green skin of the Moran people. He wore expensive robes covered in jewels. Behind him, servants held boxes filled with glowing crystals. "Ah, my daughter," Emperor Kale said as Vela approached. "Come and meet Prince Dorak. He has traveled far to seek your hand." Vela stopped at the proper distance and gave the smallest bow that politeness allowed. "Prince Dorak, welcome to our world." The prince smiled, showing rows of small pointed teeth. "Princess Vela, your beauty is even greater than the stories say. I have brought gifts worthy of such beauty." He gestured to the crystals. "These are from the deepest mines of Mira. Each one took 100 years to form." "They are lovely," Vela said without interest. "I also bring promises of alliance," Prince Dorak continued. "Our fleets combined with yours would be unstoppable. Our trade routes would bring wealth beyond imagination, and our children would unite two great empires." Vela looked at him. She saw calculation in his eyes. He did not see her as a person. He saw her as a prize, a political tool, a means to power, just like all the others before him. "Tell me, Prince Dorak," she said, "what do you do for enjoyment?" The question seemed to confuse him. "Enjoyment?" "Yes. When you are not making political plans or counting your wealth, what brings you pleasure? What makes you laugh? What makes you feel alive?" Prince Dorak frowned. He looked at the Emperor, uncertain how to answer. I enjoy strategy games, and reviewing fleet formations, and attending council meetings where important decisions are made." "I see," Vela said. She turned to her father. "I reject this suitor." The words fell like stones into water. Silence spread through the throne room. Prince Dorak's face turned darker with anger and embarrassment. Emperor Kyle gripped the arms of his throne. "Vela, you cannot keep doing this. You have rejected 47 suitors. The noble houses are talking. Our allies are offended. You must choose someone." "Why?" Vela asked simply. "Because it is your duty. Because our empire needs strong alliances. Because you are not getting any younger." Vela almost laughed at that. She would not look old for another 500 years. But she kept her face calm. I will not marry someone who makes me feel dead inside, father. I already feel dead enough. She turned and walked out of the throne room. Behind her, she heard her father apologizing to the angry prince. She did not care. She had stopped caring about such things long ago. Later that night, she sat alone in her garden. The flowers here glowed softly in the darkness, genetically designed to be beautiful in all light. Everything on this world was designed, controlled, perfect. There was no wildness, no surprise, no chaos. Her servant found her there. Your Highness, I have news. The Galactic Summit will be held here next month. Delegates from 30 worlds will attend. More suitors, Vela said tiredly. Perhaps, but there is something interesting. A new species will be attending for the first time. They call themselves humans. Vela looked up slightly. Humans? I have not heard of them. They are a young species. They only achieved space travel 100 years ago. Most of the galaxy considers them primitive and unimportant. But they have requested to join the summit, and your father has agreed. He thinks it will be amusing to watch them struggle with galactic politics. Vela nodded and looked back at the glowing flowers. Humans. A primitive species. Probably just another group of boring creatures seeking power and wealth. She expected nothing from them. She could not have been more wrong. The next weeks passed slowly, as all weeks did. Vela attended required functions and ignored more suitors. She read ancient texts and found no new thoughts in them. She watched the stars and felt nothing. Then the day of the summit arrived. Ships from across the galaxy filled the sky, each one more magnificent than the last. The Maran came in vessels of crystal. The Durrani came in warships of black metal. The Valori came in organic ships that looked like living creatures. And then, at the very end, came the human ship. It was small, simple, almost ugly compared to the others. It looked like something children might have built. Several delegates laughed when they saw it, but Vela, watching from her window high above the landing platforms, did not laugh. She leaned closer to the glass, suddenly curious. The ship landed with a slight bump, less graceful than the others. The door opened with a hiss of steam, which seemed terribly outdated, and then the humans walked out. There were 5 of them. They wore simple clothes in dark colors. They looked around with wide eyes, clearly impressed and overwhelmed by everything they saw. They were so small, so fragile-looking, so obviously out of place. And one of them, a young male with dark hair and bright eyes, looked up at exactly the moment Vela was looking down. Their eyes met across the vast distance. He smiled. Not a political smile, not a calculated smile, just a simple, genuine smile of wonder and happiness. Something stirred in Vela's chest, something she had not felt in a very long time, something that felt almost like hope. The grand banquet was held in the Crystal Hall, a massive room where every surface reflected light in 1,000 colors. Delegates from 30 worlds sat at long tables, arranged in circles around a central stage. Servants moved silently between them, offering dishes from every corner of the galaxy. Vela sat at the royal table beside her father. She wore a formal gown of woven starlight, as tradition demanded. She looked beautiful and bored, which was normal for her at such events. Around her, important people discussed important matters in important voices. She barely listened. Her eyes kept moving to the far corner of the hall, where the human delegation had been placed. It was the worst position, far from the center, barely visible, a clear message about their low status. But the humans did not seem to mind. They were talking among themselves, pointing at things, laughing quietly. The young man she had seen earlier was among them. She had learned his name from a servant, Kang Tai-ho. He was something called a diplomat, which meant he spoke for his people. He was 28 years old. By human standards, this was young, but not too young. By Solani standards, he was practically a newborn. Vela watched him eat. Humans needed food much more often than Solani did. They ate not just for energy, but for something called pleasure. The concept fascinated her. Why would anyone eat if they did not need to? The formal speeches began. One by one, representatives from each world stood and spoke about their achievements, their wealth, their power. The speeches were long and complicated and full of hidden meanings. Vela had heard 1,000 such speeches in her life. Then it was the humans' turn. Tai-ho stood up. Next to the tall, elegant aliens around him, he looked small and plain. His clothes were simple. He had no jewels, no impressive titles, no ancient lineage to recite. He cleared his throat. "Thank you for allowing us to join this summit," he said. His voice was clear but not loud. "We know we are new here. We know many of you think we do not belong. You might be right. 100 years ago, we had not even left our own planet. We are young and small, and we have much to learn." Some delegates smiled at each other. And this was what they expected: weakness, apology. But Tae-ho continued. "However, we did not come here to apologize for being young. We came here to learn, yes, but also to share. Humans have something that we believe is valuable, even if we cannot put it in boxes or measure it in years." "And what is that?" asked the Durrani ambassador with a mocking tone. Tae-ho thought for a moment. "Determination, stubbornness, the refusal to accept that anything is impossible." He smiled slightly. "We went from living in caves to walking among the stars in less time than some of you take to make a single decision. We did this not because we were smart or powerful, but because we refused to give up. We failed 1,000 times and got up 1,001. The hall was quiet now. People were actually listening. "We do not ask you to respect us for what we have," Tae-ho said. "We ask you to watch what we will become. In another 100 years, in another 1,000, humanity will still be here, still growing, still reaching for things that seem impossible." He paused. "That is our gift, hope, and we have plenty to share." He sat down. There was no applause, as that was not the custom at such formal events. But Vela noticed that the mocking smiles had faded. Some delegates looked thoughtful, others looked uncomfortable, and Vela herself felt something strange. Her heart was beating faster than normal. When was the last time a speech had affected her this way? She could not remember. The banquet continued. More speeches were made, but Vela did not hear them. She was thinking about what Tae-ho had said. Hope, such a simple word, such a human word. Later, when people began to move around and mingle, an accident happened. Tae-ho, trying to navigate the crowded hall, bumped into a servant carrying a tray of delicate glasses. The tray fell. Crystals shattered on the floor. The sound cut through the conversations like a blade. Everyone turned to look. A Solani noble would have blamed the servant. A Moran prince would have demanded punishment. A Durrani lord would have pretended nothing happened. Tae-ho did none of these things. He laughed. Not a nervous laugh or an embarrassed laugh. A real laugh, full of genuine amusement at himself. He bent down and started helping the servant pick up the pieces. "I am so sorry," he said cheerfully. "I have terrible coordination. My sister always said I could trip over a painted line. Please let me help." The servant looked terrified. No one of importance had ever helped a servant with anything, but Tae-ho kept picking up glass pieces, smiling and chatting as if this was completely normal. Vela watched with wide eyes. The nobles around her whispered in shock and disapproval. How undignified, how improper, how human. She found herself smiling for the first time in years. Over the next few days, she found excuses to observe the human delegation. She told herself it was simply curiosity about a new species. Nothing more. She learned many things about humans. They slept for many hours every night, becoming completely unconscious and helpless. This seemed incredibly dangerous, yet they survived. They required constant food and water. Their bodies were fragile, easily hurt, quickly aged. By all logic, they should have died out long ago. But they had not. Instead, they had spread across their planet, survived disasters, built civilizations, and reached for the stars. They were like weeds, growing in every crack, refusing to die. Tae-ho, she observed, worked harder than any other diplomat. He was always meeting with someone, learning something, asking questions. He made mistakes constantly. He mispronounced names, confused customs, forgot proper titles, but he never stopped trying. She watched him debate with the Moran ambassador about trade rights. The Moran was older, smarter, more experienced. He had been negotiating deals for 300 years. Tae-ho had been doing it for 3. But Tae-ho did not back down. He argued with passion and energy. He made points that surprised even the old Moran. When he lost an argument, he admitted it honestly and moved on. When he won, he did not gloat. At one point, the Durrani ambassador insulted Earth, calling it a tiny backward rock floating in an unimportant corner of space. Several humans in the delegation looked angry, but Tae-ho remained calm. "You are right," he said simply. "Our planet is small, our history is short, our technology is primitive by your standards." He paused. "But we are not ashamed of where we started. We are proud of how far we have come, and we are excited about how far we will go. Can you say the same?" The Durrani ambassador had no answer. That night, Vela stood at her window again, looking out at the stars. But this time, she was not looking at the familiar patterns she had known for 2 centuries. She was looking for one small, ordinary star in an unimportant corner of the galaxy. Earth. That was what the humans called their home. Somewhere out there was a world full of creatures who lived fast and died young, and refused to give up. Creatures who laughed at their own mistakes. Creatures who helped servants pick up broken glass. Creatures who had hope. Vela thought about her own long life, her beautiful palace, her powerful empire, her perfect, empty existence. For the first time, she wondered if the humans were not the primitive ones after all. She needed to meet Tae-ho properly. She needed to understand what made humans so different. She needed to know the secret of their strange, burning fire. Tomorrow, she decided, tomorrow she would find a way. She did not know that this simple decision would change her life forever. She did not know that the young human with the bright eyes would turn her whole world upside down. She did not know that she was about to discover what it truly meant to be alive. But as she finally turned away from the window and prepared for sleep, she felt something she had not felt in centuries. She felt curious about tomorrow. And for someone who had lived 200 years of identical days, that was nothing short of a miracle. The palace gardens were famous throughout the galaxy. They stretched for miles, filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Flowers that glowed in darkness. Trees that sang when the wind touched them. Fountains that sprayed water in impossible shapes. Everything was controlled, arranged, and perfect. Vela had arranged for Tae-ho to be invited to a small diplomatic tour of the gardens. It was not unusual for important guests to receive such invitations. What was unusual was for the princess herself to lead the tour. Tae-ho arrived exactly on time, which she later learned was very important to humans. He was dressed simply, as always, and he looked around the garden with genuine wonder in his eyes. "Princess Vela," he said, bowing in the human way. It was not the proper Solani bow, but she found she did not mind. "This is a great honor. I did not expect the princess herself to guide me." "I wanted to meet you properly," Vela said. "Your speech at the banquet was interesting." They began walking along the silver paths. The other diplomats and guards followed at a respectful distance, giving them something close to privacy. "May I ask you something, Diplomat Tae-ho?" "Of course, and please, just call me Tae-ho. The title feels too formal." Another difference. Solani always used titles. It showed respect and maintained proper distance. But Tae-ho seemed to prefer closeness. "Why do humans rush so much?" Vela asked. "I have observed your delegation. You are always moving, always doing, always trying to fit more into each day. Do you not find it exhausting?" Tae-ho thought about this as they walked past a grove of singing trees. "We rush because we do not have forever," he said finally. "Every moment matters to us because we have so few of them. A human lifetime is maybe 80 or 90 years if we are lucky. That is nothing compared to your centuries. Does that not frighten you, knowing that your time is so limited?" "Sometimes," Tae-ho admitted, "but mostly it makes us appreciate what we have. When you know winter is coming, you enjoy the summer more. When you know life will end, you try to make every day count." They stopped by a fountain that created shapes from water and light. Tae-ho watched it with childlike fascination. "Tell me about your world," Vela said. "Tell me about Earth." Tae-ho smiled. When he smiled, his whole face changed. It became warm and open in a way that Solani faces never did. "Earth is not like this," he said, gesturing at the perfect garden. "It is messy and chaotic and often dangerous. We have storms that destroy cities. We have mountains so high you cannot breathe at the top. We have oceans so deep we have not explored them all." "That sounds terrible." "It sounds like home." Tejo laughed. We love it because it is imperfect. Every sunset is different. Every season brings change. Nothing stays the same, and that is what makes it beautiful. They continued walking. The other diplomats had fallen far behind, deep in their own conversations. For a moment, it was just the two of them among the alien flowers. My grandmother, Taiho said suddenly, her name is Park Soon-yi. She is 83 years old now. When she was young, there was a terrible famine in her country. Many people died. She had to walk for days with nothing to eat. She lost her parents. She lost her home. She lost everything. Vela listened quietly. She had never heard anyone speak of such suffering so openly. But she survived, Taiho continued. She rebuilt her life. She got married, had children, became a grandmother. And you know what she does now? She dances at festivals. She laughs more than anyone I know. She makes soup for the neighbors and tells stories to children. How can someone who suffered so much be happy? Because she knows what truly matters. She lost everything once, so she appreciates everything she has now. Every bowl of soup, every sunny day, every moment with family. Taiho looked at Vela with those bright human eyes. Suffering taught her joy. Loss taught her love. That is the human way. Vela felt something strange happening inside her. Her chest felt tight. Her eyes felt warm. She did not understand these feelings. My sister, Mina, is studying to become a doctor, Taiho said. Do you know why? Because when she was 15, her best friend became very sick. The doctors could not save her. Mina watched her friend die slowly over many months. That is terrible, Vela whispered. It was. Mina cried for a long time. She was angry at the world, angry at the unfairness of it all. But then she made a decision. She would become a doctor. She would learn everything she could about medicine. She would fight to save others, even if she could not save her friend. She turned her pain into purpose. Tejo nodded. That is what humans do. We take our broken pieces and build something new from them. We carry our grief and our joy together, always. They are not separate for us. They are two sides of the same heart. They sat on a bench beside a pool of silver water. The twin suns were setting again, painting the sky in colors Vela had seen 10,000 times before. But somehow, with Taiho beside her, the colors seemed brighter. Can I tell you something? Vela said quietly. Something I have never told anyone? Of course. She took a deep breath. I have lived for 212 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched stars be born. I have studied every art and science my people have created, and I feel empty, like a beautiful vase with nothing inside, like a song with no melody. Tejo did not look shocked or pitying. He just nodded as if he understood. Your people live so long that nothing matters, he said gently. You have so much time that you do not need to use it wisely. You have nothing to lose, so you risk nothing. You never fail because you never truly try. Yes, Vela said, and her voice cracked slightly. Yes, exactly. On Earth we have a saying, Tejo said. It is better to burn brightly for a moment than to glow dimly forever. Our lives are like fires. They burn hot and fast, and then they go out. But while they burn, they give light and warmth to everyone around them. And what happens when the fire goes out? The warmth remains in the people we loved, the things we built, the memories we made. We do not truly die as long as someone remembers us. He smiled. My grandmother will die someday, but her soup recipe will live on. Her stories will be told to new generations. Her love will flow through our family forever. Vela was quiet for a long time. The suns had fully set now. The stars were appearing one by one, including one small, ordinary star where Earth orbited. I have rejected 48 suitors, she said, princes and lords from across the galaxy. They offered power, wealth, alliance. They offered everything except what I truly wanted. What do you truly want? Vela turned to look at him. In the starlight, his human features seemed soft and warm. His eyes held no calculation, no agenda, just honest curiosity and kindness. I want to feel alive, she said. I want to burn brightly, even if just for a moment. I want to know what hope feels like. Tejo reached out and gently took her hand. His skin was warm, so much warmer than Solani skin. His touch sent strange electricity through her body. I cannot promise you forever, he said. Humans cannot promise that to anyone. But I can promise you this. Every moment we spend together will be real. Every word I speak will be true. And for whatever time we have, I will help you find your fire. Vela looked at their joined hands, a human and a Solani. Two species separated by biology, culture, and lifespan. It was impossible. It was foolish. It was everything her father would hate. It was exactly what she wanted. Teach me, she whispered. Teach me how to live. And in the starlit garden, surrounded by perfect flowers and singing trees, something new and wild and wonderfully imperfect began to grow. Rumors spread through the palace like fire through dry grass. The princess had been seen walking with the human diplomat. The princess had been seen laughing with him. The princess had been seen holding his hand. For the Solani court, this was a scandal beyond imagination. A human, Lady Sarah, one of the senior advisors, said with disgust, those primitive creatures who live for barely a moment? The princess cannot be serious. Perhaps she is simply curious, another advisor suggested. The humans are new. She will grow bored of them soon enough. She has met with him 5 times this week, Lady Sarah replied. 5 times. She has never met with any suitor more than once. The whispers reached Emperor Kyle within days. He sat on his crystal throne and listened to the reports with growing anger. His daughter, the jewel of the Solani Empire, was spending her time with an insignificant human from an insignificant planet. He summoned Vela to the throne room. She came dressed simply, without her usual formal attire. This small rebellion did not go unnoticed. When she stood before him, she did not bow as deeply as tradition required. Father, she said calmly, you wanted to see me. I have heard disturbing reports, the emperor said. His voice was cold. About you and the human diplomat. His name is Te-Ho. I do not care what his name is. The emperor's voice echoed through the empty hall. He had dismissed all servants and guards. This was a private matter. What I care about is what people are saying. What I care about is the honor of our family. What I care about is your future. Vela stood her ground. My future? You mean the future where I marry some boring prince I do not love and spend the next 1,000 years feeling empty? I mean the future where you fulfill your duty to your people. The future where you create alliances that strengthen our empire. The future where you act like a princess instead of a foolish child. Something in Vela hardened. She looked at her father, really looked at him. For the first time in decades, he was old. He was set in his ways. He was afraid of change. Father, she said slowly, have you ever wondered why our empire has not truly grown in centuries? Why we build nothing new? Why we dream of nothing grand? We are stable. We are powerful. We do not need to change. We are stagnant. We are dying slowly, so slowly that no one notices. We have become so comfortable with our immortality that we have forgotten how to live. The emperor stood from his throne. He was tall, imposing, everything a ruler should be. Do not lecture me, daughter. I have ruled this empire for 500 years. And what have you done in those 500 years? What has changed? What has improved? Vela stepped forward. The humans reached space within generations of discovering fire. Within generations. Do you know how long it took us? 10,000 years. Because we had all the time in the world, and so nothing seemed urgent. Nothing seemed important. The humans are insects, the emperor shouted. They will die and wither and be forgotten while we endure forever. But what is the point of enduring forever if we accomplish nothing? If we feel nothing? If we live like beautiful statues instead of living beings? Father and daughter stared at each other. The air between them was thick with tension. This was not just about Tai-Ho anymore. This was about everything Vela had been feeling for 2 centuries. You will stop seeing the human, the emperor said finally. That is my command as your father and your emperor. No, the single word hung in the air. In 200 years, Vela had never directly disobeyed her father. What did you say? I said no. I will not stop seeing Tai-Ho. I will not pretend that meeting him has not changed something in me. For the first time in my life, I feel awake. I feel like there is a reason to get up in the morning. I feel like my heart is actually beating instead of just pumping blood. The Emperor's face twisted with anger, and beneath that, fear. You would choose this brief creature over your own people? I would choose to feel alive over feeling nothing at all. Yes. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the Emperor raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Guards appeared at every door. Princess Vela is confined to her chambers until further notice, he announced. No visitors except approved servants. The human delegation is to be informed that their presence is no longer welcome at the summit. They will leave immediately. Vela's heart dropped. Father, no. Take her away. Guards surrounded Vela. They were respectful but firm. As they led her out of the throne room, she looked back at her father. You cannot stop this, she said. You cannot command feelings to disappear. You cannot order hearts to stop beating. I can and I will, the Emperor replied. In 100 years, you will not even remember his name. The doors closed behind her. In her chambers, Vela stood at the window and watched the human ship prepare for departure. Guards had surrounded the delegation. They were being escorted off the planet, politely, formally, but unmistakably expelled. She saw Tai-Ho being led toward the ship. He was not fighting or protesting. He walked calmly with dignity, but before he entered the ship, he stopped and looked up, directly at her window. From this distance, he could not possibly see her, but somehow she felt like he knew she was there. He raised his hand just slightly in a small wave. Then he was gone, swallowed by the ship. Minutes later, the ship lifted off, became a point of light, and disappeared among the stars. Vela pressed her hand against the cold glass. Tears fell from her eyes, something that had not happened since she was a child. Solani rarely cried. They had learned to control their emotions over millennia of civilization. But Tai-Ho had taught her that emotions were not weaknesses to be controlled. They were gifts to be felt. So she cried. She cried for the conversations they would not have. She cried for the lessons she would not learn. She cried for the fire that had just barely started to burn and was now being smothered. And somewhere deep inside her, beneath the grief, something else was growing. Something hot and bright and refusing to give up. Humans called it determination. Days passed. Servants brought food that Vela did not eat. Officials came to lecture her about duty, and she did not listen. Her father sent messages asking her to apologize, and she did not respond. She spent her time thinking, planning, remembering every word Tai-Ho had said. Humans did not give up. They failed 1,000 times and got up 1,001. They turned their broken pieces into something new. They carried grief and joy together, always. If she was going to be with Tai-Ho, she would have to fight for it. She would have to take risks. She would have to be willing to lose everything. She would have to be human. On the 5th day of her imprisonment, she received a secret message. A servant who had always been loyal to her personally brought a small folded paper. The message was short. It was in human writing, which Vela had learned during her time with Tai-Ho. We have not left. Ship is hidden on moon, waiting for signal. Some things are worth fighting for. Vela read the message 3 times. Then she ate it, destroying the evidence. Tai-Ho had not given up. Against all logic, against all wisdom, against the direct command of an emperor, he had stayed. For her. Vela looked out her window at the moon, where somewhere a small human ship was hiding. A smile spread across her face. If he was willing to risk everything for her, then she would risk everything for him. She began to plan. Tai-Ho sat in the small human ship, hidden in a crater on the dark side of the moon. Around him, his fellow diplomats were nervous. This is insane, said his assistant, Yoon Hana. She was young, smart, and practical. We should have left when we were ordered to. Staying here is an act of defiance against the Solani Empire. They could destroy us with a single ship. They could, Tai-Ho agreed, but they will not. How can you be so sure? Tai-Ho looked out the small window at the stars. Somewhere out there, on the planet below, Vela was waiting. He could feel it. Because this is not about war or politics or power. This is about something they have forgotten how to understand. This is about love. Hana stared at him. You are in love with the princess? Tai-ho. She is an alien. She will live for 1,000 years. You will be dead in 50. This makes no sense. Love never makes sense. That is what makes it love. A signal light blinked on the control panel. A message was coming through on the secret frequency Vela had given him before they were separated. The message was simple. Tomorrow, court assembly, invoke the old law. I believe in you. Taeho read it and smiled. He did not fully understand what Vela meant by the old law, but he trusted her. She had spent the last week researching ancient Solani traditions, looking for a way to fight her father legally. She had found something. The next morning, Taeho prepared himself. He put on the best clothes he had, simple dark clothes that were formal by human standards. He looked at himself in the reflection of a metal panel. You are about to walk into a room full of people who think you are less than an insect, he told himself. They have every reason to kill you. They have no reason to listen. He took a deep breath. But you are human, and humans do not back down. The ship flew openly toward the planet. It was immediately detected, of course. Solani warships surrounded it within minutes. Demands for surrender filled the communication channels. Tai-ho ignored them all. He sent only one message. I invoke the right of declaration. I demand audience with the Emperor. The warships did not fire. They followed, escorted, but did not attack. Hana was amazed. They are letting us through. Why? The right of declaration, Taeho said. Vela told me about it. It is an ancient Solani law, older than the Empire itself. Any being, no matter how low, can publicly declare intentions toward a royal. The court must listen. And if they reject you? Taeho was quiet for a moment. Then I face exile or death. The ship landed at the same platform where they had first arrived. But this time there was no parade of diplomats to greet them. Only soldiers with weapons ready. Taeho walked out alone. He had ordered the others to stay on the ship. This was his risk to take. The soldiers surrounded him, but did not touch him. The right of declaration gave him protection until he could speak. It was one of the few laws that even the Emperor could not ignore. They led him through the palace corridors. Servants stopped and stared. Word spread quickly. The human had returned. The human was invoking the ancient law. The court assembly was already in session when Tai-ho entered. Hundreds of Solani nobles filled the great hall. Emperor Kyle sat on his crystal throne, his face like stone. Advisors and officials surrounded him, their expressions ranging from amusement to anger. And there, in a special seat reserved for royalty, sat Vela. Their eyes met across the hall. She looked tired but determined. She gave him the smallest nod. Taeho walked to the center of the floor. The crowd fell silent. Every eye was on this small, fragile, impossibly brave human. I am Kang Taeho of Earth, he announced. I invoke the right of declaration as granted by your own ancient laws. You must hear me speak. Emperor Kale leaned forward. His voice was cold as ice. We know why you are here, human. You wish to claim my daughter. It is laughable. You are an insect seeking to mate with a star. Some nobles laughed. Taeho waited for the laughter to die. I am not here to claim anyone, he said calmly. I am not here to demand anything. I am here to offer. Offer? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What could a creature like you possibly offer the Solani Empire? Taeho took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on the next few minutes. I offer what humanity has always offered, he said. I offer change. He began to walk slowly, addressing the entire court. I have been among you for only a short time, but I have seen much. I have seen a civilization of great power and ancient wisdom. I have seen technology that my people cannot dream of. I have seen wealth beyond counting and peace that has lasted millennia. He paused. I have also seen fear. Fear of change, fear of loss, fear of failing. Your people live so long that you have forgotten why life is precious. You are so afraid of losing what you have that you never reach for more. You are so comfortable that you have become numb. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some were angry, some were thoughtful. Humans live short lives, Taeho continued. We know we will die, every one of us. And because of this, we value every moment. We love fiercely because we have so little time to love. We dream boldly because tomorrow is never guaranteed. We fail often, but we always get back up, because giving up means wasting the precious time we have. He turned to face the Emperor directly. Your daughter, Princess Vela, is 200 years old. She has rejected 48 suitors. Do you know why? Not because she is difficult or ungrateful, but because she is searching for something that none of them could give her. And what is that? The Emperor asked. Life, Tejo said simply. Real life, with passion and risk and uncertainty. Life that matters because it is not forever. Life that burns brightly instead of glowing dimly. He walked toward Vela's seat. Guards moved to stop him, but the Emperor raised a hand. Let him speak. I am not asking for a political marriage, Taiho said, looking at Vela. I am not offering alliances or wealth or power. I cannot promise her centuries of companionship. I will grow old. I will wither. I will die. And she will continue without me. Tears were forming in Vela's eyes. She did not hide them. But I can promise her this. Every day we have together will be lived fully. Every moment will mean something. Every sunrise will be a gift. Every sunset a treasure. I will teach her what it means to love with a mortal heart. And when I am gone, she will carry that fire within her. She will never be empty again. He turned back to the Emperor. That is what I offer. Not a lifetime, but a life, a real life, for whatever time we have. The hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one whispered. Emperor Cal stared at Tei-Ho for a long moment. His ancient face showed nothing. Then slowly he stood from his throne. You speak well for an insect, he said. But words are easy. The question is, are you willing to die for these words? Because under our law, if I reject your declaration, the punishment is death. Tei-Ho did not look away. I know. And you came anyway? Yes. Why? Tei-Ho smiled softly. Because some things are worth dying for. And if I ran away, if I gave up because I was scared, then I would not be the person Vela deserves. I would not be human. He straightened his shoulders. So here I stand, small and fragile and mortal, ready to accept whatever judgment you give, because I would rather die with courage than live with regret. The Emperor looked at this strange, brave creature from a primitive world. For the first time in centuries, he did not know what to do. And in her seat, Princess Vela began to stand. Vela rose from her seat. The movement was slow and deliberate. Every eye in the court turned to her, but she only looked at her father. I invoke the right of answer, she announced. Her voice was clear and strong. The court erupted in gasps and whispers. The right of answer was even older than the right of declaration. It had not been used in over 2,000 years. Most had forgotten it existed at all. But Vela had spent a week researching ancient laws, and she had found it buried in texts that had not been read for millennia. The right of answer allowed a royal to accept a declaration of love without the approval of emperor, council, or court. It was a law from a time when the Solani still believed in passion over politics, when love was considered more important than alliances. You cannot, the emperor started. I can, Vela interrupted. She stepped down from her seat and walked toward Tei-Ho. The crowd parted before her like water. The law is clear. It has never been removed from our codes. You yourself taught me to respect tradition and ancient wisdom, Father. This is both. She reached Tei-Ho and took his hand. His skin was warm. So wonderfully warm. She could feel his heartbeat through his palm, fast and strong and alive. This human, she said, turning to face the court, has shown me more truth in a few weeks than I have learned in 2 centuries. He has taught me that life is not measured in years but in moments. He has taught me that love is not a transaction but a gift. He has taught me that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. She squeezed Tei-Ho's hand. For 200 years I have lived in this palace, surrounded by beauty and luxury and power. And for 200 years I have felt like I was sleeping, going through the motions of life without actually living. I was a perfect princess, and I was perfectly miserable. Her voice cracked slightly, but she continued. Then he came, this small, fragile, mortal human from a young and primitive world. And he woke me up. He showed me what it means to feel truly alive. Not just to exist, but to burn, to hope, to love with everything you have because you know it will not last forever. She looked at her father. For the first time, there was no fear in her eyes, only certainty. I have rejected princes who offered me empires. I have rejected lords who promised me centuries of comfort, because none of them could give me what I truly needed. None of them could make me feel like my heart was actually beating. She lifted her hand, still joined with Tae-ho's, so the entire court could see. But he can. This human, with his short life and his big heart and his impossible courage. He walked into this room knowing you might kill him. He risked everything for the chance to stand here and speak. That is not the action of an insect. That is the action of someone who understands what it means to be alive. The court was silent. Nobles who had lived for centuries stared at this young princess who dared to challenge everything they believed. I choose him, Vela said. I choose uncertainty over safety. I choose feeling over numbness. I choose a brief, burning life over an eternal, empty one. She turned to Tae-ho and smiled. I choose you, for whatever time we have. Tae-ho's eyes were wet. Humans cried easily, he had told her. Their emotions overflowed. At the time, she had thought it strange. Now she understood. Sometimes feelings were too big to contain. Vela, he whispered, are you sure? You will outlive me by centuries. When I am gone, when you are gone, I will carry you with me, she said. In my memories, in my heart, in everything I have become because of you. You taught me that death is not the end. It is just a transformation. The fire goes out, but the warmth remains. She turned back to the court. Look at yourselves. Look at what we have become. We live for 1,000 years and accomplish nothing. We have all the time in the world and waste it on politics and protocol. We have forgotten what it means to truly feel, to truly love, to truly live. Her voice rose, passionate and strong. The humans went from caves to stars in less time than we spend choosing wallpaper for a single room. They did this because they know they do not have forever, because they refuse to wait, because they burn with a fire we have forgotten how to kindle. She pointed at Tae-ho. This man has more life in his short years than most of us have in our millennia. And that is not an insult to us. It is a lesson, a challenge, a gift if we are wise enough to accept it. Emperor Kyle stood frozen on his throne. He had ruled for 500 years. He had faced wars, rebellions, disasters. But he had never faced anything like this. His daughter was right, and he knew it. Slowly, heavily, he descended from his throne. The court watched in stunned silence as the emperor walked toward the couple in the center of the floor. He stopped in front of Tae-ho and looked down at the human. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, amazingly, the emperor knelt. Not fully, just one knee. But it was more than he had done for anyone in centuries. The court gasped. Human, he said quietly. I have lived for nearly 1,000 years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I thought I understood everything there was to understand. He looked up at Tae-ho with ancient eyes. But you have shown me something new. You have shown me that courage is not about power or immortality. It is about standing up when everything tells you to run away. It is about risking death for something greater than yourself. He rose and turned to his daughter. I have spent 500 years trying to protect our empire, to maintain our traditions, to keep everything the same. I called it wisdom, but perhaps it was only fear. Vela saw tears forming in her father's eyes. She had never seen him cry. She had not known he could. Your mother, he said softly, so only she could hear. She was like you, passionate, impatient, alive. She died young, barely 300, a disease we could not cure. And when she died, something in me died too. He touched his daughter's face gently. I told myself I was protecting you by keeping you safe, by controlling your future. But I was only trying to prevent myself from losing you like I lost her. I was so afraid of change that I tried to stop time itself. He stepped back and addressed the court. The right of answer has been invoked. The law is clear. The princess has made her choice. He took a deep breath. And I accept it. The words echoed through the silent hall. My daughter will marry this human, not because I approve of it, not because I understand it, but because she has reminded me of something I had forgotten, that life is meant to be lived, not endured, that love is meant to be felt, not calculated, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go of control and trust in something greater. He looked at Tai-Ho one more time. Take care of her, human. For whatever time you have, give her the life she deserves. Tai-Ho bowed deeply and sincerely. I will, Emperor, I promise. And then, in front of the entire Solani court, Vela pulled Tai-Ho close and kissed him. It was not a proper Solani gesture. It was a human custom, strange and intimate and wonderful. But Vela did not care about proper anymore. She cared about this moment, this feeling, this fire in her heart. And somewhere in the depths of the ancient court, a few Solani nobles began to clap. The sound spread slowly, uncertainly at first, then growing stronger. Soon the entire hall was filled with applause. It was an unprecedented display of emotion for the Solani, and it was only the beginning. The wedding of Princess Vela and Kang Tai-Ho was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was held in the palace gardens where they had first talked truly, where Tai-Ho had told her about his grandmother's dancing and his sister's dreams. The flowers glowed in 1,000 colors, and the trees sang songs of celebration. Guests came from across the galaxy, not just the usual diplomats and nobles, but artists and scientists, dreamers and builders. The human delegation returned in full force, including Tai-Ho's family. His grandmother Park Sun-Yi walked slowly but proudly to her seat in the front row. She was 83, tiny and wrinkled and full of life. When she met Vela before the ceremony, she took the princess's hands and looked into her eyes. Take care of my grandson, she said in her soft voice. He has a big heart, too big sometimes. He feels everything so deeply. I know, Vela said. It is what I love most about him. The old woman smiled. And when he is gone, remember him. Tell stories about him. Make sure his warmth stays in this universe. Vela knelt down to meet her eyes. I promise, for as long as I live. His sister, Kang Mina, had also come. She was 24 now, in the middle of her medical training. When she met Vela, she hugged her immediately. Solani did not hug, but Vela had learned. Thank you for seeing him, Mina said. Really seeing him. Most people just see a diplomat or a human. You saw him. He is easy to see, Vela replied. He shines so brightly. The ceremony combined traditions from both cultures. There were ancient Solani rituals of light and water, symbols of eternity and flow. There were human vows, simple words spoken from the heart. There was music from both worlds, mixing in strange and beautiful harmony. When Tai-Ho placed the ring on Vela's finger, he whispered, in sickness and in health, in joy and in sorrow, for as long as I live and beyond. Beyond? Vela whispered back. Death is not the end, he said, smiling. You taught me that. Or I taught you. I cannot remember anymore. They kissed again, and this time the entire galaxy seemed to celebrate. The news spread quickly. The alien princess had married a human. Some called it scandalous. Some called it romantic. Some called it the beginning of something new. They were all right. In the years that followed, things began to change. Slowly at first, then faster. Human-Solani partnerships became more common. The humans brought their energy and creativity, their refusal to accept limits, their passionate urgency. The Solani brought wisdom and patience, resources and knowledge, the long view of those who had seen millennia pass. Together, they accomplished things neither could have done alone. New technologies emerged from their collaboration. Faster ships, better medicines, ways to communicate across the vast distances of space that no one had imagined before. The humans pushed and pushed, always asking, why not? The Solani provided the tools and knowledge to make impossible dreams real. Art flourished too. Human music and Solani composition merged into something entirely new. Human stories and Solani poetry created literature that touched hearts across 100 worlds. The Solani learned to feel again. The humans learned to dream bigger. Vela herself led many of these changes. She became a bridge between the species, translating not just language but ways of thinking. She traveled to Earth twice, walking the messy, chaotic, beautiful world that had produced her husband. She met Tai-Ho's grandmother again, a few years before the old woman passed away. Sun-Yi was 90 by then, but she still danced at family gatherings. She taught Vela a simple human dance, laughing when the princess struggled to follow the steps. "You move like a statue," Sun-Yi teased. "Loosen up. Feel the music." Vela tried. She stumbled. She laughed at herself, just as Tai-Ho had taught her. "There," Sun-Yi said, delighted. "There is the real you. Keep her close." When Sun-Yi died peacefully in her sleep, Vela cried, real tears flowing freely. She had known this woman for only a short time, but the warmth remained, just as Tai-Ho had promised. Mina became a doctor, just as she had dreamed. She specialized in cross-species medicine, helping to understand how humans and Solani could share medical knowledge. When she saved her first patient using a combination of human and Solani techniques, she sent a message to Vela and Tai-Ho. "She would have died using just our medicine," Mina wrote, "but together we found a way. Together we always find a way." Vela and Tai-Ho never had children. Their biology was too different, but they raised ideas instead. They created schools where young humans and Solani could learn together. They funded artists and scientists. They planted seeds of change that would grow long after they were gone. Tai-Ho aged, of course. He could not escape that. His hair turned gray. His movement slowed. Lines appeared on his face. Vela remained unchanged, silver and beautiful, while the man she loved became old. But she never regretted it, not for a moment. "Are you sure?" Tai-Ho asked her one evening, when he was 62 and his joints ached from the cold. They were sitting on a balcony, watching the twin suns set. "You could have had centuries with someone else, someone who would not fade." Vela took his wrinkled hand in her smooth one. "I would rather have 34 years of this," she said, "than an eternity of emptiness." "You remembered," he said softly. "Of course. I remember everything. Every sunrise we watched together. Every conversation we had. Every time you made me laugh or made me think or made me feel alive." She leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body. "You taught me what it means to live," she said. "Not to exist for centuries, but to truly live. To love so much it hurts. To hope so hard it terrifies you. To grab every moment and squeeze every drop of meaning from it." Tai-Ho smiled. Even old, even tired, his smile still lit up his face. "I was so afraid," he admitted. "That day in the court. I was terrified. But I kept thinking about what you asked me in the garden. Why do humans rush so much? And I realized we rush because we have to. Because waiting is not an option. Because if we do not reach for what we want right now, we might never get another chance. And you reached for me. And I reached for you. The impossible princess from the ancient empire. The beautiful alien who felt like she was sleeping." He kissed her forehead. "I think I woke you up." "You did," she whispered. "You set me on fire." Tai-Ho lived to be 81. In his final days, he was surrounded by family and friends, by the legacy he had built. Vela held his hand until the very end. "Do not be sad," he told her. "This is not goodbye. This is just transformation. The fire goes out, but the warmth remains. I will be in your memories, in your heart, in the dance steps my grandmother taught you." "I love you," Vela said through her tears. "I know, and I love you, for forever, even though my forever is shorter than yours." He squeezed her hand weakly. "Promise me something. Anything. Keep burning, keep feeling, keep living. Do not go back to sleep just because I am gone." Vela nodded, unable to speak. Tai-Ho closed his eyes. His breath slowed, and then peacefully, he was gone. Vela lived for another 700 years. She never married again. She never wanted to. But she did not go back to sleep either. She kept her promise. She traveled the galaxy, teaching what Tai-Ho had taught her. She wrote books about him, about their love, about what humans could offer the universe. She danced at festivals, badly but joyfully. She laughed at her own mistakes. She cried when she was sad and did not hide it. And everywhere she went, she told stories. Stories about a young diplomat who knocked over a vase and laughed. Stories about a grandmother who survived famine and still danced. Stories about a species that went from caves to stars because they refused to give up. Stories about love that was bigger than lifespans. In the end, the galaxy changed forever because of a simple truth. A brief life, fully lived, was worth more than forever. And Kang Tae-ho, who lived for only 81 short years, had proven it. His fire went out, but his warmth would remain in the universe forever.